All right, today we are looking at a little Oddball custom built from a local computer manufacturer, now defunct. This is an older system, and it does have a P3 cartridge mounted processor, which I thought was just fantastic. We've got an S3 Trio 3D graphics card and a Yamaha chipset sound card. I've not actually seen this one before, so enlighten me if you're familiar with it. It's got an old school modem. Obviously, we're not going to be using that today. I am not sure how much RAM this has in it. It has 3 bays, and then it's got some dip switches here, which I'm honestly not sure what those are for. I'm not really familiar with this 8-bit BF6 motherboard. And it's got a unique little 250 watt power supply. It does have the hard drive, so we're going to go ahead and see if this will boot. Everything seems to be plugged in. We do have a mouse with this one, an old ball mouse, so we're going to go ahead and just fire it up and see what we get. And we get a beep code. One long beep, and of course no boot. Makes me wonder what we might be looking at. I'm going to guess a dead CMOS battery, possibly a memory issue. Let's see what we can figure it out. Alright, so I've reseated the processor, and I reseated the RAM, and it's still getting that same beep code. So I did swap the RAM out for another stick of DRAM. And let's go ahead and plug her back in and see if we get that same beep code again. We are still getting that same beep code. So it's possible. Oh, that's odd. Beep code ceased. It was continuous before. Let's just try and hit the reset button. See if anything changes. Doesn't appear to be, but that is different. I'm going to go ahead and hit the power button. Now, so far the power button has not actually shut it off, so I take that as a good sign that we've had a change. Now, I did replace a CMOS battery. I assume that was long dead. Let's try it again. Okay, interestingly enough, no beep code at all this time, which probably says that this memory is not working. So let's go ahead and we'll shut her off again, and then we will try and reseat the old stick of RAM that was in there and see if that makes any difference in the beep code. All right, we've reseated the original RAM, powering it on. And now we have no beep code at all, which would suggest that that's still bad memory in there. Now, there's no onboard graphics on this at all. There's just joystick ports, USB, and then legacy PS2, and then everything's run off this graphics card. So, being that we got nothing right now, I'm going to go ahead and venture a guess that we've got bad memory and we need to continue replacing it with alternative memory until we find one that works. Alright, next up we've got a 256 stick of SD RAM. Let's see if this works. Again, no beep code. Also nothing display wise, so I'm going to venture a guess this is still a memory issue, which is odd. And as far as I know, the dip switches configure the processors, so let's continue our trials. Okay, so I've got a stick of tested and known to be good PC100. Now it's only 64 meg, but it should be enough to at least get the system started. again, unfortunately, we've got nothing, which is kind of troubling. Unfortunately, I don't have another P3. We're not getting any beep codes at all at this point, which is kind of sad. So I think the next step, I'm going to try and just dismount and remount this P3 again and go back to the original stick of RAM. See if we can at least duplicate the code, the beep code, and try and see if we can get this thing to give us some more information. So a couple things. I couldn't duplicate the beep code we got originally, which is troublesome. I dismounted and remounted the processor a couple of times. Some of the contacts have a little dust, so I'm going to try and clean those up. I did clean up the contacts in the RAM bay, but I figured I better look at the caps, because I don't know how old this is, and I do see that the farthest cap there is bulging a little bit. It hasn't exploded, so I feel like in a way it should still be okay, but I really have no guarantee of that, of course. The other option I can think of is I have this P2, which I could go ahead and just mount and see if it gives us any beep codes or anything at all. The only thing about this P2 is it's an unknown quantity. I really don't know if it works, but we're going to go ahead and throw it in, see what happens. All right, and as expected, the P2 mounted properly. Go ahead and plug the system back in and see what we get. Ah, success. We get a beep code. All right, so we for sure get at least the beep code back. So I think with that, we might as well try and shake it up by putting some of the memory in it and see if that makes any difference. All right, so we've got a fresh stick of RAM in there. Go ahead and give it juice, and let's fire it up with the P2. And what do you know? We have display and we have a boot. P2 at 233. Memory test's good. Everything looks good. So the CPU, of course, doesn't work. The CMOS battery is dead, but we know it works. So the question is, now I do think it's interesting. There's an isobus on here. Who knows? But the question is the P3 dead, or is it just these contacts that are a little dirty? Can we clean them up? And the good news is this whole P2 works. So if nothing else, we know we can get it to run with the P2. We know we can get it to boot. Let's see if we can't clean up this P3 and get it running. All right, we are back with the P3. I did clean the contacts off, and we've got the tested and good memory. So let's see what we get. And it boots. P3 at 366, so not a huge gain. It's like adding a late stage P1 to that P2 we had in there. CPU is unworkable or has been changed. It has been changed, so I think we can go ahead and get this into setup. Oh, and another Windows 98 build. We've had a couple of these lately. That's kind of exciting because this is an appropriate build for Windows 98. Let's just give it time and see how long it takes to actually get into Windows. It's been a long time since I've used 366. Cool cat. Plug and pray monitor. It does recognize my legacy ball mouse, which is exciting. Dial-up connection. Okay, monitor INF. Should be fine. Yeah, why not? Let's see how fast this restarts. Now we've added RAM to it, so I don't know if that RAM stick's just bad or if we just had dirty contacts. So we may end up just adding more RAM and kind of making this like a much better P3 system, which would be kind of fun for retro gaming. Let's go ahead and run their little setup utility. Pentium 3. Wait a minute. That's not right. $366. I believe. Actually, this one looks like it might be better than that. I'm honestly not sure. But we're going to go ahead and try it at 300. So that should be reasonable. And let's go ahead and save and exit. Okay, boot good. 366. Alright, the soft menu setup worked perfectly. Now, I did put the original CMOS battery back in here, so I don't know if that's going to hold any date and time information, but that's okay. I'm not really concerned with that. With plenty of batteries if we need one. Alright, got our cat back. Color's a little bit nicer this time. The driver in there. Right to Windows 98. Now look at that! ICQ. That's been a long time since I've seen ICQ. Wow, I'd almost forgotten that existed. That's amazing. So, okay. We got our mouse in here. Looks like whoever had this was using AIM. iTouch, alright, whatever. Let's go into settings and control panel. This is running pretty quick for Windows 98. It's appropriately built, so this is not too bad. This is the Windows 98 I kind of remember. So we've got a genuine Intel Pentium 3, 256 megs of RAM. Windows 98 2nd edition. So that's pretty cool. I'm excited that this one booted. I'm excited that it's properly equipped for the era. Let's just see if there are any fun games or anything on here. And doesn't really look like it. Rotobund. Teaches typing. Not very fun. Real Player, I remember the old Real Player G2, so what's this? Music Center. Oh, so we have a MIDI board. Interesting. So it might be set up for making some MIDI files. So pretty interesting. I'm kind of excited to see that. But check it out. You can actually play MIDI. I don't have any speakers hooked up, so that'll have to test in the future. I am kind of curious, though, on the hardware aspect of it. What are we looking at? Just want to see if anything isn't already installed. Okay, so I'm not going to worry about that. Let's go with System. Device Manager. And let's see. So our display adapter is an eTrio 3D 2X. And other thing I want to know is our sound controller wave device. System some speakers. So again, I'm not really sure what this Yamaha chipset sound card is, but it's equipped with MIDI, so it must be somewhat decent. We'll have to probably look into that, but pretty excited to boot up another Windows 98 machine with appropriate hardware for Windows 98. So if you enjoyed this video, drop me a comment if you have any thoughts. Don't forget to hit the like button, and if you haven't already, please do me a favor, go out and hit that subscribe button for me, and hit the notification button so you can stay up to date with all of UrzaMaster content. I really do appreciate it. It helps me out in being able to deliver as best I can some good stuff for you to watch. And if you want to see more of me, you can head on over to the Digital Escape podcast here on YouTube, and that's the podcast I co-host, and actually co-host a couple of other podcasts that are on there as well. We have 3 different weekly shows that'll be coming out. I'm on all of them, and we also have some other fun content over there, so head on over there and subscribe as well, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.